Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And as you can see in this headline here, the coming of the police state in America. Okay, and this is from, as you can see, zerohedge.com. Okay, so I'm just going to read a couple of points here. It's interesting. This article is similar to a lesson that I did maybe about a couple of days ago concerning this National Guard deployment in New York. And so, as the author in this article goes into, okay, this is all pretty much in the workings of leading to a police state. Okay, with the justification being a surge in crime. So anyway, let me read a little bit of here. It says the National Guard and the state police are now patrolling the New York City subway system in an attempt to do something about the explosion of crime. As part of this, there are bag checks and new surveillance of all passengers. No legislation, no debate, just an edict from the mayor. Many citizens who rely on this system for transportation might welcome this. It's a city of strict gun control, and no one knows for sure if they have the right to defend themselves. Merchants have been harassed and even arrested for trying to stop looting and pillaging in their own shops. Yeah, pretty much. When somebody runs up in your shop, they're stealing things. You try to stop them. Well, now you got to face difficulties for that. The message has been sent. Only the police can do this job. Whether they do it or not is another matter. And it's all conditioning. Okay, like we said, it's all conditioning. If you are a merchant or a store owner and you have to stand by and let people that run up into your store and start, I mean, you've seen the videos, right? You see these gremlins will run up into like an Apple store, for example, start pulling out phones, stuffing it in their pockets as best they can, and just literally walk out because they know that the staff can't do anything about it. So if you are a store owner or you work at one of these places, like the statement just said, the cops are the only ones that can do this job, right? Because you don't want to get into legal trouble because you tried to stop a criminal from stealing from your store. So now you have to rely on the police or law enforcement, who may or may not do what's needed to be done. In fact, most of them really just they come to deal with the situation after the fact. All right, they're not, most of them, they don't handle the situation as it's going on really after it happens. But anyway, let's see where we are. Yeah, it says things on the subway system have gotten crazy. If you know it well, you can manage to travel safely. But visitors to the city who take the wrong train at the wrong time are taking grave risks. In actual fact, it's guaranteed that this will only end in confiscating knives and other things that people carry in order to protect themselves, while leaving the actual criminals even more free to prey on citizens. The law-abiding will suffer, and the criminals will grow more numerous. It will not end well. And this is just a step in the direction. Okay, you'll see how, I mean, if you're actually paying attention, you'll see how it's push and pull, push and pull, push and pull until they get to their destination. Okay. Where are we? It's like when, let me think of an example. Say you have the stereotypical example, or not even stereotypical, just a typical example of some, I don't know, scary looking clown or some weird looking man who manages to convince this child that he has a warehouse of candy. and so the child should follow him. And the child is following him, and as he's going with the child is scared, looking around like, yo, this place is kind of weird. But every time the child opens their mouth, he continuously reminds them of the uh, beautiful amount of candy that are in that warehouse, in order to lull them, back to their convinced state where they would just continue to go on with him. Even though they're looking around, they're like, yo, it's getting more and more weird. This place is looking more and more scary. But he said candy. And every time they think that, he says candy, 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 to justify getting that child there. And that example is to say, like, when you look at this situation today, they'll, you're seeing now that they actually have what, National Guard troops deployed into your subway stations, but they'll justify it with, look at the crime. It's so bad. You don't want to end up like one of these people getting stabbed or shot up on the train. So this is a measure to protect you. And then they take another step, which is even more police state like. And once again, they're hitting you with, well, the crime is getting even worse. Even with our original steps we took, it's still bad. So guess what? We still need to take some more steps, or else, your safety is going to be at risk. When what else is going to be at risk is your freedom. There was somebody who said, and let me see if I can find it. I don't remember exactly who it was, but they said something along the lines of, those who sacrifice, freedom for safety. Okay, so it was Benjamin Franklin. Right. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Because what's going to happen is, before you realize it, by the time they tell you, if they ever do, that, okay, now you are safe, when you turn around, you're going to realize, oh, you're safe, but you're also a slave. There's no freedom. So how much was that safety worth? Maybe all your freedoms. What's another example? Look at the lockdowns. The lockdowns were for your quote unquote safety, remember? And it was supposed to be for 2 weeks, remember? What was the term? To bend the curve, round the curve, whatever, flatten the curve. Okay, all the way back when this guy Cuomo was in office. And it was all about flattening the curve, and another 2 weeks, and another 2 weeks, and 2 years that went by, and here you are. But remember, it was for your safety. Okay? And what did you have to sacrifice? Your freedom. And you saw the kind of videos that were coming out all around the world. In fact, I think in China, they were actually dragging people to these camps and quarantining them there by force, and also other countries. I think New Zealand might have been one of them. They were actually coming into houses, removing people. I mean, yeah. Okay, all a precedent. So the point is, by the time they tell you you're safe, you're going to realize that you don't have any freedom at all. And you're going to keep hearing, yeah, you're safe, you're safe, you're safe. But by the time you realize that, hold on, who the hell were you even worried about being safe from anyway? Both you and the criminals are now unsafe, because this person who's promising you safety is now the ultimate. I mean, they have so much power and control over you, they might as well be the criminal themselves. But it's too late for you to do anything about it. Anyway, where are we? When you step back from the details, what we have is the dawning of a genuine police state in the United States. It only starts in New York City. Where is the guard going to be deployed next? Anywhere is possible. And that's the thing about the different states, is that is as much as they are divided, they're also very united in terms of following trends. Even when you follow the way the lockdowns were being implemented, the different masks, rules and stuff. One state says this, another state follows suit, and then the trend is set, and next thing you know, half the country, if not more, is following, these same protocols. If the crime is bad enough, right? Here you go. If the crime is bad enough, citizens will welcome it. So, problem, reaction, what is the solution? Police state. If the problem being that the crime is bad enough, and the reaction, the appropriate reaction they want is that people are scared enough, then people are going to welcome whatever solution it is they're trying to bring. Okay? It must have been this way in most times and places that when the police state arrives, the people cheer initially, right? Initially. We will all have our own stories of how this came to be. Some might begin with the passage of the Patriot Act and the establishment of the Department of Homeland Security in 2001. Some will focus on gun control and the taking away of citizens' rights to defend themselves. My own version of events is closer in time. It began 4 years ago this month with lockdowns. And it's crazy how already it's been 4 years. Already. Wow. That's what shattered the capacity of civil society to function in the United States. Everything that has happened since follows like one domino tumbling after another. So basically, this is his run-up of events leading to the police state. You had the lockdown, followed by a loss of moral compass and spreading of loneliness and nihilism. Let's take a look at that. See what synonyms we can get up for this. So it says here, the rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless. Did you look at that? Negativity, pessimism, rejection, unbelief, non-belief, disbelief, skepticism. So along with loneliness, you had this going on. And it is so interesting how pre-lockdowns, people were, still wilding out. Like the American people were still wilding out. But I don't know if it's just me, but post lockdowns, it's just like they have gotten much worse. When you look at the perverseness, the actual social media content that comes out, and I'm talking about like from one end of the spectrum to the other end, in terms of moral depravity, in terms of violence, in terms of just I don't know, just completely being degenerate. When you look at all these behaviors, it's been exacerbated like tenfold post lockdown. People are just doing the craziest things. Funny and oddly enough, these same people during the lockdowns were all conspiracy theorists, humbled up, people asking to get together and pray and all of these different things. And then they said, okay, you can come back outside. And they just went turn to full demons. Instead of taking that time to actually let reality sink in, to say, yo, this is crazy. Like what happens when, maybe this version 2.0 comes around? Because I mean, we were warning you about it before it happened. But I mean, the scriptures tell you, right, in the book of Second Esdras, that for all these things they shall not turn from their wicked ways. Right? It says scourges are sent for amendment of the people, but for all these things they're not going to turn from their wicked ways. Anyway, back into the article. The third thing here is rioting resulting from citizen frustration. Fourth being police absent because of ideological hectoring. And that's where you had the whole defund the police, blah, 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 blah. And now they're saying, bring the police plus National Guard. We need them back. A rise in uncontrolled immigration / refugees. An epidemic of ill health from substance abuse and otherwise. Businesses flee the city. You had that whole exodus of people leaving the city, people leaving New York. Cities fall into decay, and that results in more surveillance and police state. The 10th stage is the sacking of liberty and civilization itself. And if you're paying attention, it's pretty apparent. If you're not, it still sounds a little, out in the wild. for you. It doesn't fall out this way at every point in history, but this seems like a solid outline of what happened in this case. 4 years ago is a very short period of time, or just 4 years is a very short period of time to see all this unfold. But it is a fact that New York City was more or less civilized only 4 years ago. No one could have predicted that it would become, or it would come to this so quickly. What's also interesting is an example of conditioning is when pre-lockdowns, you would see one or two people wearing a mask. And when you did, it would look weird. You would actually suspect that maybe they had something. Okay, this is when they first announced the whole, situation before the lockdown came. And you had people saying, hell no, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm going to look crazy and, all this, blah, 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 blah. They turned around and now it's like, you still have people today with face shields. I'm not taking it off. Nope, 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 nope. So how do you get one to go from, there's no way you're going to get me to put this on, to now, ain't no way I'm taking this off? Conditioning. It says here, but once the lockdowns happened, all bets were off. Here we had a policy that most directly trampled on all freedoms that we had taken for granted. Schools, businesses, and churches were slammed shut with various levels of enforcement. Now, when you actually look back at this, how this all went down, and you analyze it, that like this person is doing to a degree, then you really start to see how calculated it was. Like all the different things they actually got to try out and test on the people and test the pulse of the people and see how the people reacted to it. It's all data. It's all data. Go ahead and go to like a Chat GPT, or go on the website, for example, or even download the app and just type in certain questions, and look at how it responds as if it's an actual human. But if you ask it specific enough questions, it'll tell you that it was only trained to a certain point, and it was just trained with data. Okay, data collected from people, from the internet, from databases. Okay, and that was fed into this artificial intelligence software, and it was trained according to that data to behave a certain kind of way, right? So oh wow, that's the spirit. Speaking of Chat GPT, literally I just saw that on the right, bottom right over here. That's crazy. Anyway, and the point here is that's how valuable and useful this data is. So when they run these live exercises and it doesn't lead to all hell breaking loose right away, it's, even though all hell didn't break loose, it's very bad still, because they've accumulated enough data to run all kinds of simulations and all kinds of planning to know when they actually want to take this thing down, what's the best way to go about doing it. Okay, so let's go back to this article. It says here, the entire workforce was divided between essential and non-essential, and there was widespread confusion about who precisely was in charge of designating and enforcing this. Yeah, and they also got to see how long were people under this, following this, what kinds of people refused from the get-go, what kinds of people stood upon their words, what kinds of people, conformed. What did it take to get people to conform? Right? What kind of videos were people watching? Look, if you as a content creator on YouTube, for example, can see the demographic of people watching your videos, do you not think that YouTube themselves gather, and not just YouTube, but I mean all the data that you access on the internet, they can track that. The average individual is not hip to using VPNs or encryptions. They're not even aware that they should be. So, and it's not like even if you did, it would be impossible for them to access what you're looking at. So if you can see the demographic of people watching your videos, of course they can see who is watching what and when. And just just like that, they can tell, okay, what kinds of people were watching what kinds of videos, around what kind of time, what was their reaction, were they sharing this video, were they liking this video, were they posting it in a group chat, and what was being said in that group chat. Because all your messages in group chats, guess what? If your message, if you're in a group chat, be it WhatsApp, GroupMe, whatever, you send a message to some and you post it in the chat, in order for other individuals in the chat to see it, your message has to travel across the internet. If they can see it, guess what? The government can see it. The creators of um, those platforms you use can see it because they have to store it somewhere. So they can see all that. Okay. So the point is they can check what were you saying, what was your reaction, what kind of people decided to take the jump shot, like all of these different things. They got all that information. And they can take that information and they can say, okay, maybe the next event, we don't want to do a lockdown or a pathogen. Maybe in the next event, we want to do something different. But we can use the information we've gathered here in terms of how to make it most effective. Anyway, let's keep on going. So it says here, it felt like martial law at the time, as if all normal civilian law had been displaced by something else. That something had to do with public health. But there was clearly more going on, because suddenly our social media posts were censored and we were being asked to do things that made no sense, such as mask up for a V that evaded MP, mass protection. And I still have to do this. It's ridiculous, but you still got to speak in code because they're going to take your video down still. And walk in only one direction in grocery aisles. Yeah, they had laws coming out saying, or policies saying you can't talk to your neighbors when you're outside. Like, you remember those? If you post something on social media, guess what? They can come up in there and they come into your crib and take you away. If you are in a supermarket and there was a video of that, somebody was not, they didn't conform. They went to the supermarket. Them troops went up in there and aggressively took that person out of the market. Anyway, I'm gonna jump through this a little bit. I don't want to read through the whole thing, but just the main points. It says here, let's see. Yeah, meanwhile, large checks were arriving in people's bank accounts, those stimulus checks, defying every normal economic expectation. And you wonder why the economy is so bad. How could people not be working and get their bank accounts more flush with cash than ever? There was a new law that didn't even require that people pay rent. How weird was that? Even student loans didn't need to be paid. Yeah, so they made all these exceptions to the norm, called it the new normal, and they knew exactly what they meant when they said that. Let's jump down. So what's the next step? Let me see. I'll come up here a little bit. All right, let's start from here. So meanwhile, the native population had begun to swim in ill health from substance abuse, widespread depression, and demoralization, plus V injury, with this increased dependency on the very institutions that had caused the problem in the first place. The rise of crime drove the small businesses out of the city. They had barely survived the lockdowns, but they certainly could not survive the crime epidemic. This undermined the tax base of the city and allowed the criminals to take further control. Well, what you see today, like I said, crime has gotten worse. The same cities became sanctuaries for the waves of migrants sacking the country, and partisan mayors actually used tax dollars to house these invaders in high-end hotels in the name of having compassion for the stranger. Does the stranger have compassion for you? I forgot where, was it Denver or there was somewhere where they were basically telling landlords to, allow migrants to, move in and pay rent and all that. Okay, I mean, if they're even going to have to pay it. Citizens were pushed out to make way for ramping rampaging migrant hordes, as incredible as this seems. Now, one thing you should ask yourself is our the U.S. Not gonna say our the U.S. government, right? The U.S. government, all of a sudden, along with the different state, politicians and stuff, all of a sudden became so compassionate that they like we just read here, they were willing to push out citizens to make sure they could protect and take care of these migrants coming from all over the world, without coming through the proper systems, just walking into the country. And the second they make it here, hey, you're good. We're going to give you water, food, housing, money, and freedom. You do whatever you want to do. Because we're just that compassionate, that we care so much about you. But what I find interesting is that compassion doesn't seem to be, found anywhere when it comes to the taxes that they take out of your paycheck at the end of every pay period. I mean, you try owing the IRS 1 cent and see if they're going to show you an ounce of the same mercy and compassion that they're so-called showing to these migrants. They'll throw your ass in jail for the smallest things, criminalize you. Look at the policies that they have in this place that make it so hard for you to survive. But all of a sudden, they just, there's just this part in their heart that's just, is so they have such a big heart, that they want to do this. They want to do what's right for people who can't afford it. Forget the ones who can't afford it that are U.S. citizens or the ones that are already living here. They need to do this for the ones that are just coming in. So heartwarming. So heartwarming. So, that leads me to believe that clearly this is not about a compassion thing. They don't give a damn. Compassion they ask. If you knew what was on the books for what they're about to do to you, you gonna think twice about even if they can even pronounce the word compassion. Okay. Anyway, where are we? But with that, of course, crime rose even further, inciting citizen anger and providing a pretext for bringing in the police state, in the form of the National Guard, now tasked with cracking down on crime in the transportation system. What's the next step? It's probably already here. Mass surveillance and censorship, plus ever-expanding police power. This will be accompanied by further population movements as those with the means to do so flee the city and even the country and leave it for everyone else to suffer. And that's where these prophecies come into place. Are we at the middle stages of a total collapse, or at the point where the population and the people in leadership positions wise up and decide to put an end to the downward slide? The thing is, it's not about wising up. No, they're wise already. Okay, they're wise enough to put a plan that is messing up your country. It ain't about wising up. Okay, believe me, they're not worried about, this isn't something they don't know how to fix. It's something they don't want to fix. Or something they're fixing already with whatever they're doing now. So now I want to get this real quick, because as he's mentioning, right, this police state, all this is going to lead to more and more death. Okay, more and more destruction, because you'll get to the point where as these things ramp up more and more and more, you're going to have more clashes. Okay, and along with a total collapse comes what? Chaos, death. And those were the sights that these prophets saw and described. Now, this is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 22, chapter 16, verse 22. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Now, the sword today is a what? Like in the ancient world, when you read the scriptures and you hear a sword, it's really like a killing instrument. Especially when it's talking about destruction, and sometimes it's referring to an actual nation's army coming against you. Sometimes it's talking about an actual physical sword. Well, in today's society, it's talking about the modern day most commonly used weapon, which is gun. Okay, a gun, but hey, it could also be an actual physical sword. It could be any weapon, really. Okay, but generally speaking, it is a killing instrument. So now, as famine is happening and ravaging through the world, and people are dying of that, others that are able to survive that now have to worry about dying from being killed by weapons. So, what are the possible ways, if you take America for example, that this could happen? Because you could have, through crime, somebody shoots somebody, it starts to get bad. It's lucky it starts to get bad, or alternatively, the people doing the shooting could be a mix of civilians and law enforcement. Okay, that's the thing about the police state. It can get to the point where they are allowed to use deadly force. A lot of people are not going to want to survive, or you listen to that, because in most cases when you have to establish order and you're using like a hard martial law or a harsh martial law to do it, they pretty much give them those troops uh, the green light to use deadly fire, because they need to instill that order. I mean, and then once again, society has to be that bad, okay, that they can do that. But when they do that, guess what? Now it's like Call of Duty in real life. If they're enacting a curfew and you're not trying to hear that, maybe they're gonna not mow down a good percentage of you, and then you'll start to hear it. And then through that, they'll be able to establish that order through fear. Because the average American today has not seen or lived through a situation like that, where they send in troops to, on a mass scale in majority of all these states, and they're actually coming in with like assault rifles, and they're actually just like murking people in the streets. So pretty sure when people see that, they're gonna cool their brakes, if that's even a figure of speech. So verse 23, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. So that's going to happen, one way or another. Okay, and we're seeing these, what's leading up to it. There shall be no man left to till the earth and to sow it. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? So it really must be that bad if you don't even have people to, like farmers, right? They're the ones that till the earth and plant and do all those things. But even the things that were planted, who's going to be gathering them? The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men. Why? Because as we read up above, many are going to perish of famine and the sword. Okay, so as it says, all places shall be desolate of men. The population is going to decrease very quickly. And it says, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice. Because that's like in the movie I Am Legend. When Will Smith was pretty much going senile because he wasn't having any human interaction, to where now he's talking to mannequins. Because that's how few people were left, that you'd be surprised to hear from someone else. You can go 2, 3, 4 days, maybe a week, and not see somebody alive. You may see dead bodies here and there. You might not see somebody living. Possibly because people are hiding, but also because there's that many, like that's that few people. For of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks. As in an orchard of olives, upon every tree there are 3 or 4 olives, or there are left 3 or 4 olives. Or as when a vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that diligently seek through the vineyard. Even so in those days there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. So guess what? These are going to be those you read of in 2nd Ezra 15, right? A man not sparing his neighbor, but spoiling and breaking through their house and taking their goods. And then also you're going to have those troops that do those door-to-door searches. Okay, so families will be split up. Some will be killed. Some will be hauled off to different centers and camps. Verse 32, and the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel there through. So now imagine that. Man, it's got to get so bad that, today it's almost like it doesn't matter what time of the day you leave your house, you'll see somebody. You'll see at least one car on the road. You'll see some lights on somewhere. Somebody's working or somebody's walking on the street or somebody is doing something. So it must be really bad if, you barely even see anybody, to the point where the cities are now gonna, you know what happens when humans don't dwell in the city for a long time. The trees, nature grows back and breaks through the concrete and all of that. Well, that's what Ezra is describing over here. So, you can believe what you want, but hey, according to the scriptures, man, it's gonna get bad. It's gonna get bad, and that police state is coming. Okay, now this article wasn't written by us, so clearly somebody else is seeing what's going on here. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.